I was already starting to cry. Okay, don't leave here. Y'all, I have to tell you something about this amazing lady right here. First of all, I just love you. And can we give a huge, huge Texas-sized round of applause, like screaming, yelling, hollering for Miss Karen Gray. I love you. Okay, but I have to tell y'all something too.
Oops, sorry.
So I had a meeting with Karen, and I had just had a really bad thing happen, like a devastating, kind of hurtful thing that happened in my business. And so I have a meeting with Karen, and we've never talked really on the phone before, and we're talking, and y'all, I started like crying on her shoulder. I was like, she just let me go on, and then I get off the phone, and I'm like, I feel that tug of vulnerability, and I'm like, oh, Amberly, what have you done? You are never going to speak at her event now. You've lost that friendship. You just met, and you're already crying on her shoulder. This woman, this amazing lady, you lead with such love and with your heart. Here I was all worried about, oh, I was so vulnerable. She sends me the most loving, encouraging text message the next day, and I just felt like it grew our friendship even more. So the way that you lead, you're such an incredible leader, the way that you love, it shows in all these women that you have attracted, because every single person that I have met has been incredible, and you can feel the good energy in the room, and that's because of who you are. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. So y'all ready to have some fun? Yeah, let's get this party started. So I have to say, that bingo thing was fun. I met my soul sister. Courtney, where are you? She's a new soul sister. I was already like crying with her. You too, golly. Then I met my new neighbor, Terry. She's in Forney. I'm in Heath. I don't know if y'all know where that is. I didn't know where it was before I moved out here. But new neighbors, that was really fun to get to know all of you. And I don't want to give you a lot of like raw motivation. I want to really show you how true grit and optimism, and as you can see, building the right relationships can really help you cultivate the resilience to live the life you've always imagined, even when things don't go as planned. Because I don't know about you, but things don't always go as planned for me. And what I've learned is, we don't actually always get all of our dreams or all of our goals, but you do get your destiny. And, it was about, it was 2010, and my whole life changed. I was in the fitness industry, sponsored by Nike, doing infomercials. Anybody heard of Body by Jake? Y'all remember about? I'm really aging myself now. But I was doing infomercials with Body by Jake. I was in Shape magazine, Fit Pregnancy, doing articles for them. It was my life. And I was on my way home from work on my Harley, and I had an SUV. Yeah, it was a Harley. And it was fun until that SUV pulled out of the parking lot and T-boned me. And I did not realize, do I need a clicker, don't I? Thank you. Oh gosh, I hope y'all aren't eating right now. So yes, I had an SUV pull out of a parking lot, and I don't remember being thrown, but apparently I was thrown up in the air. All I remember was sliding across the asphalt, and when I finally came to a stop, I looked down at my leg and it was crumbled into pieces. And I was screaming some cuss words and thinking, oh my goodness, my Methodist mama would not be proud of me right now. And paramedics got there pretty quickly. I had no idea how serious it was. Luckily, I had a guy come over right away, and he made a tourniquet on my leg. I'm going to take that off. It's kind of gross to look at that for so long. He made a tourniquet on my leg. He saved my life, basically. I didn't realize when your femoral artery is severed, you can bleed out pretty quick. Paramedics got there, got me taken to the hospital. I remember being in the back of the ambulance and squeezing the paramedic's leg so hard and looking at him trying to get a reaction, and he wouldn't look at me. And I thought, wow, man, maybe I am going to die, because he won't even make eye contact with me. Get to the hospital, My husband gets there. News travels fast in the police force. He was a lieutenant commander, and the ER was filled with cops. And I hear this like screaming, like wailing. And I realize it's my husband. I'd never seen him or heard him cry. And he's going back and forth and back and forth. And I yell across the room. I said, honey, I need you to get over here and be strong for me. That's the last thing I remember before this beautiful nurse, her name's Shaniqua, still friends with her. She leaned over me and said, we're going to give you something to make you feel all better now. And I was like, oh, thank God. Put in an induced coma. Over a week later, I woke up, and the first thing I learned was they said, I'm so sorry. This is like a war wound. There's nothing we can do for you. We're going to have to amputate your leg. You've got a 1% chance of saving your leg. Y'all, in that moment, all I heard was 1%. And I'm like, so you're saying there's a chance? And it took an act of God. My goodness, it took an act of God, a lot of prayers, a lot of calling in favors, and we got transferred to another hospital. It took 34 surgeries, and they saved my leg, and I can walk. Thank you. And I really thought the hard part was over. I thought, oh, okay, that's done. I was a professional dancer. I knew how to push through pain. I was an athlete. I had a track coach that used to tell me to get off the track, to throw up and keep running. I knew how to push. I had grit. And I thought, well, I'm upright on crutches. I go into a doctor's appointment, and he takes one look at me, and he says, are you the kind of person that likes to push through pain? I said, well, yes, sir. He can tell I got a PhD and suck it up. I said, yes, I sure do. He said, well, you need to stop. You need to stop right now. You've got something very serious. You've got complex regional pain syndrome. Your life is never going to be the same. You're going to be permanently disabled. You're never going to work again. You need to go home, get back in your wheelchair, and put your leg up. And I felt like I had been kicked in the gut. But I didn't go home and get back in my wheelchair. I went straight to physical therapy. And Terry, my therapist, said, what are you doing here, Amberly? You don't even have an appointment today. What are you doing? I said, Terry, I just learned something, and I'm going to have to work harder than I've ever worked before if I want to have the life that I've always imagined. I didn't know how hard that was going to be, let me tell you. But look, some of you sitting here be going, I can't relate. I've never been hit by a car. But we've all been hit by something. Some of you go, oh, I've never been in a coma. I don't suggest it. I really don't suggest it. But we've all been through something, especially in the past few years, whether it is your relationships, your business, your finances. We've all been through something. But what I have learned is there are absolutely ways to get through challenges. There are absolutely ways to get through struggles. And I want to show you, okay, that's me in a coma, I know. Hey, at least my toenails were painted. Oh, they were cut off there. Okay. This is me, and I was so happy to be standing upright. I know I don't look very happy right there, and I was a brunette, but I was really happy. But there's one thing that has had the biggest impact on my transformation, on my journey, on my business, in my relationships, on everything I've done. Because I remember sitting in the hospital bed. We had that hospital bed in our living room. And I had a friend come over who used to be a trainer with me. I was a fitness trainer for 26 years. And she came over. She said, well, what are you going to do? Can't train clients anymore. And I was like, what do you mean I can't train clients? And I mean, obviously, yeah, I don't look like I could train clients. I actually did train clients on crutches. And I just burst into tears. And I was sitting there going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to get through this? How am I going to get through the pain? What am I going to do to get out of this hospital bed? And what am I going to do to start working? And then I hear this little voice. And it was from my 2-year daughter that was up. She was 2 years old and she was upstairs. And all she said was, Mama. And in that moment, I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be an example of resilience. I'm going to be the victor of my life and not the victim. And I'm going to show my daughters what it means to thrive, not just survive, but to thrive. And so resilience has been the biggest part of my transformation. You know what? We all have it. We all have it within us. It comes from deep within us. And the support Like in this room, the support around us. And I don't believe that resilience means to bounce back. I tried to go back to that old life and it didn't work. I feel like resilience is really your ability, your choice to move forward with courage, to have the life you've always imagined. And like I said, it comes from the support around us. That's why I'm so glad Karen brought us all together. I met so many amazing women just walking around the room playing bingo. And so the first part of any transformation, and this may sound so simple, but it was really, really hard for me. So transformation, whether it's in your health, whether it is in your business or your relationship, is acceptance. And that was so hard for me. I didn't want to accept the way that I looked. I mean, I'm completely scarred from the hip down. My ankle's fused. I scare some kids. I'm used to it now when they see my leg. But I had to learn to accept where I was. I think we all have to take a good, hard look at our life and accept where we are and who we are on our journey to move forward. And I learned this in a pretty radical way. You see, about a year after they had saved my leg, I was trying everything for pain. Nothing was working. I had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. We had a lien on our house. I went into the doctor. I was like, I got to get to work more. And if you just, go ahead and cut my leg off, I can do more. It's holding me back. It's too painful. He said, well, we can't do that. I'm like, what do you mean you can't do it? And he did something that changed my life. He sat down in front of me and he put, that usually doctors will have you lay on the table, or he sat in front of me and he put my leg on his nice white coat. And all I could think was, I can't believe he's putting my deformed, ugly leg on his nice white coat. And he looked at it, he touched it, he actually touched it, and he looked at it like it was a masterpiece. And something shifted in me. And I thought, if he can look at it that way, maybe I can learn to look at it that way too. And it wasn't easy, but little by little, step by step, I started to be able to accept all the scars and look down at them as, wow, look at how powerful the human spirit is and how the body can heal. And I started looking at those scars as, look at what I've overcome, instead of looking down in disgust. Because, I hated my leg, and I'm telling you, hate's a 4-letter word in our family, and I hated it. I soon began to accept where I was, and things started to change for me. I remember the first time I took a picture. Well, actually, I'll tell y'all something. So during COVID, my daughter was like, oh, Mom, you're too old for TikTok. I was like, well, I'm definitely going to get on TikTok now. She goes, Mom, please do not get on TikTok. I flipped the camera over. I had shorts on. I was trying to get my tap shoes on. I had not tap danced since my accident. She's like, Mom, those shoes are not going to fit you anymore. You can't get that on. I felt like Cinderella trying to get that, the stepsister trying to get the slipper on. I got that tap shoe on. I started doing a tap dance. So I did a time step. That thing went viral. I said, Ruby, see, I need to be on TikTok. But I showed my scars, and I had some people, there was this one guy that said, don't ever show that again. I was eating and almost threw up. And I was like, because I had done all the healing work and I was in total acceptance, and I was like, man, I love this leg. This is a $2.9 million leg. Do you know how much this sucker's worth? I was like, I was okay with it. I wouldn't suggest posting stuff on social media unless you have completely accepted where you are, who you are, and really own who you are. Because you know what? When you own who you are and where you are, nobody can use it against you. A good question to ask yourself, how's that working for you? It's simple, but how's that working for you? Is it helping you or is it hurting you? Because everything we do is either helping us or hurting us. And not just like skipping the gym or going to the gym. I'm talking about like the things we watch, the people that we talk to, the people that we let into our life. So I want you to really, tonight, back in your room, or even now, tomorrow morning, maybe, I really encourage you to ask yourself, how's that working for you? And if there's something in your life that's not working, how can you take the steps to change it? Because when you're in acceptance, it puts you in the driver's seat of your life, and you get to take action steps with grit. You get to move forward with grit, and I love grit, man. I love grit. I was never that good at anything except for grit. I could work harder. I would train harder. I got to state in track because I trained. I worked. I was running on the weekends. I practiced more than anybody else. I wasn't the best dancer. I just took more classes. I loved grit, and you know what? Angela Duckworth, after I wrote my book, True Grit and Grace, somebody said, oh, have you ever heard of the book Grit? And I'm like, no, I wish I would have. It would have probably helped me write mine. But she says grit is the key predictor of success. Doesn't matter how pretty you are, or talented, or how much money you have. That doesn't matter. It's your ability to work hard for long periods of time. But I had a lot of misconceptions about that. A lot. I was working, and I was pushing down the pain and stuffing down the pain and stuffing down the pain and pushing and trying to be the best mom and trying to be the best wife and didn't want anybody to see my pain, and I was working. And I remember training clients, and one day I was at the gym, and my husband was at the gym working out where I worked, and he comes over and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm training a client. He goes, you're bleeding across the gym floor. And I had surgeries. I was in one of those medical boots, and I was like, something's got to change. That's when I decided to stop training clients because it wasn't serving me, them, or my family. And I thought, well, instead of trying to fix the past, what can I do for the future? What possibilities are there out there? You see, I was just gritting it out. And how many of you think, okay, if I just work harder, if I just do more, if I just post more on Instagram, if I just do more, then I'll be successful. What I learned is grit without connection, like we have here. Grit without connection is resistance. It is clawing your way to the top. It's hitting challenges and roadblocks, or even worse, rock bottom. But grit with connection, that's where you find resilience. When you can lean on your sister, when you can lean into the group like we have here at Texas Business Women. That is where you're going to find resistance. You see, I mistook health scares for heroic acts. I once gave a motivational talk while I was passing a kidney stone and thought, well, at least my leg doesn't hurt. I ended up going septic, went to the hospital, was in ICU again. That's when I got really scared. Because the doctor came in and said, if you would have waited one more day, you would have been dead. And I was like, oh my gosh. And when I got out of the hospital, my husband and I were taking our daughter to school, and I was really quiet, which is not like me. And he goes, what is wrong with you? And I said, I'm scared. He goes, you can't be scared. You're my rock. You cannot be scared. You're my rock. I'm like, okay, I'm not scared. Let's go. You know, I feel like as women, we have to be so many things, and we wear so many hats. I mean, how many companies do you have? Three? So many people. How many women in here have more than one business? And I want to just see this. Keep your hand up if you have more than one business and you have a family to take care of. Wow. That's a lot. Being an entrepreneur is a lot. Being an entrepreneur with a family is a lot. Being an entrepreneur with, my daughter just dropped her puppy with us for 2 months. She told me it was 4 weeks, and she's like 2-3 months now. She's in Africa. It's a lot to try to do a Zoom meeting with a puppy in your lap. You know, I mistook stubbornness for strength, and I convinced myself it was grit. I mistook fear for function and convinced myself it was grit. Y'all, what I learned is community and connection is everything. Not just connection with others, but connection to yourself, connection to your higher power, who I call God, but connection to your soul. I had somebody ask me this morning, so I was speaking at this other event this morning actually, and someone asked the question. They said, can you talk about vision? Like, how do you see your vision? You have to be still. You have to quieten the noise around you. There's always going to be somebody around you that's going to tell you you can't do something, you shouldn't do that, or even more, just, you know what, sit down, be quiet, hide your crazy and be a lady. I'm not hide my crazy anymore. I'm sorry. You have to really go out there and seek counsel and not opinion. There's so many people that are going to give you opinion. And what I mean by that is, so when I was writing my book, I wrote a book called True Grit and Grace, and I was the fitness girl. Before that, I was the dancer. I mean, my first music video I ever danced in was MC Hammer Can't Touch This, if you can believe that. Woo! MC Hammer. So I said, well, I think I'm going to write a book. You know, all this couldn't have happened for no reason. I'm going to write a book. At least that will turn pain to purpose for me. If I can just have my mom read it, I thought maybe my mom would read it. I'm just going to write that book. Everybody around me, especially my family, was like, girl, don't write the book. You don't even have a computer. I didn't even have a computer. No college education. By the way, my oldest daughter is at Yale studying medicine. Proud of her. I have to brag on her. But it's her dog I have right now, just Tasmanian devil. Everybody said, don't write the book. You don't know how to write. You can't do it. Then I went to one person who had published 76 books, and I said, I want to write a book. And he said, okay, great. Start writing. I wrote 90% of my book in a spiral notebook, no joke. And then I told the guy that I asked, who became my editor, I said, well, what kind of computer do I buy? He told me what kind of computer, went to the Apple store, took free classes, and I raised my hand, every question, raised my hand. And the teacher stopped the class and he said, I just have to say something. You know, we have never had anybody raise their hand so much and not be embarrassed to ask such basic questions. And I was like, well, I need to learn this stuff. I didn't care if I looked stupid. I was like, I need to learn how to work this computer. I got to type it up and get a publisher. Do you know that 81% of people want to write a book? How many people in here want to write a book? Yeah? How many people already have a book? Ooh, yeah. I like that. Do you know that only 1%? I know y'all are like the 1%ers because you're here investing in yourself. Like, you're here. Woo, let's give yourself a hand. You're doing it. Other people dream. You guys are not chasing your dream. You're catching your dreams. But 1% of people actually end up writing that book. So if you have it on your heart, if you're prompted to write a book, this is your sign to write that book, and all you have to do is start writing. I ended up publishing my book and went on the Today Show, and it became a bestseller in between my two favorite authors. I took a picture of that, by the way, Dr. Brene Brown and Wayne Dyer. It was in the middle, and I was crying. I was like, oh my gosh. So if you have a prompt in your heart, do it. Whatever that is on your heart, do it. But seek counsel and not opinion, because people around you who've never done it, they might just want to protect you, but they've never done it. Go to somebody who's already done the thing that you have done. And here is the best way to connect with other women who are in business, to get advice, to get counsel, to lean in when it gets hard. And your breakthrough is coming when it gets the hardest. That's the breakthrough is right on the other side. But it takes endurance. And in endurance, I was always in fight or flight. I mean, growing up running, I loved to run. That was my drug of choice. I loved to run. And I didn't realize I was running from everything. I was running from pain, shame, which is the lowest frequency. I was running from everything. And I was in fight mode. And I was exhausted. And I was just doing everything I could to numb out the pain. And I was having every kind of medical treatment, from spinal stimulator, ketamine infusions, Eastern Western medicine. I mean, I was a good, Anybody snake oil salesman that says, I can get you out of pain? I was like, okay, how much? Let's do it. I even had some guy dripping oil on my head and chanting over me. I was like, whatever it takes, let's do it. Let's get her done. Nothing was working. And then I remember having a glass of wine and going, man, this kind of helps numb out the pain. I was like, this is pretty good. I was like, being in the fitness industry, that's not the healthiest thing to do. But I thought, well, if this is what I have to do, then this is what I'll do. One glass led to 2, led to 3, led to a whole bottle, and before I knew it, I had a drinking problem. And I went to my husband and I said, hey, honey, I think I got a problem. He goes, oh, he's a cop. You don't have a problem. Anybody who is dealing with what you are dealing with would be drinking. In my heart, I knew I had a problem. You guys know in your heart when something's wrong. You know in your gut when something's wrong. Now, your head will tell you, oh, it's just one bag of Doritos. In your head, you'll be like, oh, that purse isn't that expensive. Pay it off later. But you know in your gut, you got to listen to your gut. Your head will tell you things. Other people tell you things. But your gut does not lie. And I knew deep down I needed help. 2016, I ended up getting sober by the grace of God. Thank you, praise God. And it's because of community that I'm able to stay sober. I mean, I remember I was going to a recovery meeting one day, and this is after like 5 years of sobriety or something, and my mom, I was on the phone with her, she goes, you mean you still go to those meetings? I said, yeah, that's how I stay sober. You guys still come to these meetings? Yeah, that's how you get successful in business. It's connection and community. And instead of being in fight or flight and trying to stuff down the pain, because that pain will come up, I discovered a new way called flow. And my husband was like, flow? What is that woo-woo crap you're talking about? I'm like, no, flow, honey, listen to me, listen. It stands for frequency, love, optimism, and wonder. Now, frequency, he's like, you mean like how many times you go to the gym? I'm like, well, that's good, but no, I mean frequency like your energy. Like when you walked in this room, can't you feel the love in this room and the collaboration? Like you can feel the energy and the good vibes. And I've been to a lot of women's events, and believe me, I don't know if y'all have, but they are not like this. This is like, you can feel the love in this room and the good energy. I mean, Terry and I are already best friends. Courtney and I, we soul sisters. I mean, you know, we you can feel it. It's different. But how do you raise your frequency? Moving your body, forgiveness, gratitude, loud music. You were playing Taylor Swift on the way here to get her pumped up and to raise her energy. Going out in nature. I go out and I just take my shoes off and walk in the grass. Like whatever floats your boat to raise your energy. But I want you to be very careful about the people that you're hanging around with, because you know what? There are puppy uppers and there are doggy downers. And what I mean by that, you know the people that, man, you don't even have to be in the same room. They can call you on your phone and you see their name on your phone and you're like, oh, God, what do they want? Or the people like Maria, I met Maria and I was like, oh, she's a puppy upper. She's a puppy upper. We're sticking together. So really pay attention to the people that you're around. And it's not just the people that you're around in person. It's the people that when you're scrolling through social media, and by the way, I highly, highly advise that when you wake up in the morning, don't grab your phone. I know I'm saying that because I want to. I don't know if y'all do, but that's the first thing I want to do. I get grounded and really sit with my thoughts and focus on my intentions before I pick up and look at emails or scroll through Instagram. Because you know what? It can be a comparison game. It can be looking at highlight reels. It can make you feel bad. I encourage you to go, next time you're scrolling through Instagram and there's somebody that just, it might be nothing against them, but they just don't make you feel good, or they don't motivate you, or you're like, why am I following this person? I feel like crap. I compare myself every time I look at them. Sometimes you got to bless them and block them. You know, got to protect your energy. And the next part of flow is love. And I was at this one conference, and let me tell you, there were billionaires, and then there was me. I'm not a billionaire yet. And there was this one business guy, oh my gosh, so successful. He gets up on stage and he's like I'm going to give you the best business tip ever. This is how I've been so successful. And I got my notepad. I'm like, okay, what's he going to say? And he said, love. I was like, oh, love. What did I say about this room? It's full of love. It's full of success. Love, but love, not just what you do, but love on your people. That's why Karen attracts all these people. That's why I wanted to come here and be here for her, because I love her. And so love your people, love what you do, love yourself. You are a walking permission slip for others around you. You are a walking permission slip for your team, for your family, for your children. And what I mean by that is, if I was ashamed of how I looked and covered up my leg all the time and didn't want people to see it, how do you think that would affect my daughters? And I wanted to give an example. I had a mastermind student, so we do a big event every year, and then we do retreats, and we'll usually do a mastermind at my home, and then we'll do a day of masterminding and a day of fun. Actually, I have Tiffany Rose here. She's a member of my mastermind. Tiffany in the pink, beautiful pink, pretty in pink. I had a lady in the mastermind, and this was about 6 months ago, and she was scarred. Her legs were all scarred from infections. So I decided I'm taking them out on a boat. We're on a double-decker pontoon, and I've got food, and we had a prayer circle, and I'm in my bikini walking around, and she's looking at me like, oh my God, Amberly is really not afraid to show her deformed leg. And I'm like, no, I'm glad I'm alive. I'm grateful to be alive. It was the first time ever she actually showed her leg, and it changed everything. It was being in that acceptance. It was being in that community. And now she's lost 80 pounds and not just increased her business. It's like when you get in the right community with people, it's life-changing. And so when you love yourself, it's life-changing. It changes everything. The next part of flow, how do you spell flow? Oh, optimism. Optimism. Oh, people think I'm optimistic all the time. I'm not. And when I'm not, my husband says, okay, Biff. That's my dad's name, and he's very negative. And he'll go, okay, Biff. And I'm like, I am not like my dad, okay? I love my dad, but I'm like, I'm not a doggy downer. But I stay optimistic because I work on it. And I work on it every morning from the moment I get out of bed. I'm grateful that I can get out of bed. I'm grateful that I can walk, even if I do look like a 100-year-old cowboy when I first get up and walk. I'm like, I'm walking graceful. I'm walking graceful. I'm walking. But listen, what podcast are you listening to? What books are you listening to? What people are you hanging around? Learn to flip the script. As soon as you have that negative thought, I call it the bully that lives in my head. I lock that bully up. I switch the thought, and the easiest way to do that is with gratitude. Because I can be so negative, and then I think, you know what? There was a time when I couldn't even use the bathroom on my own. I am so grateful I can use the bathroom on my own. I know that seems kind of silly, but it's the little things. Like, take a look around. And be grateful that you were able to drive here tonight, that you're able to be here tonight. But staying optimistic is not just something that comes easily sometimes. You have to listen to the right podcast, read the right books, be around the right people, flip the script, and then also approach things with wonder. That's the last part of flow, by the way, wonder. How can you approach things with curiosity? This just came to mind, my daughter and I, she's a daredevil like me, a little adrenaline junkie like me. We have so much fun. If there's a sign that says no trespassing, we're like, let's go. And with all the rain and everything, there was this, we were trying to cross this path and it was full of mud, and she's like, Mom, go, jump it. And I'm like, I'm going to sink in the mud. She's like, Mom, do it. She goes, oh, Mom, do it. What would your Unstoppable Life Mastermind ladies think right now if you were chickening out? And I'm like, oh, dang it. So she constantly like, well, I wonder if we could go around it. Like, okay, can't go over it. Now she even says stuff like that. Can't go over it, gotta go around it. How can you be flexible? How can you be curious and ask questions? Instead of, oh, what's the worst that can happen? What is the best that could happen? You know? And then I want to leave y'all with one thing that I use all the time. I use it every day because I'm actually still in pain every day. It's called PACER. And this came about because I was at the dinner table with my husband, and he looked at me, and I guess I looked like a wreck. I had my leg propped up on the table. It was throbbing. And he goes, you really need to pace yourself. And I was like, I was offended. As an entrepreneur, I'm like, pace myself. That's kind of like when somebody says, calm down. I'm like, pace myself. Then I really thought about it, and I grabbed a dinner napkin, and I started writing down everything that pace yourself meant. And it meant taking things in stride instead of going full throttle. Sometimes we got to slow down around the curves so we don't go out of control. So PACER stands for, and you know what? I'm going to give you, I came up with something just for y'all. If you will get the free downloadable playbook that I've created so you can have PACER, and I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. It is what I use when I'm sad, when I'm anxious. It's what I use when I'm in pain. It's what I use when I'm like, oh man, I'm ready to give up. It's a self-check to get through challenges. And so tonight, I don't want you to just hear a story and not implement it into your life. I want you to really take this tool, and the next time you're struggling, remember PACER, which stands for perspective, acceptance, community, endurance, and rest. And you know what? If you just text just that word, you're going to get the download. And then afterwards say, hey girl, it's me, Terry. What are you doing over there in Heath? Come visit me in 40. You can text me. It's really me texting you back. I had somebody say, is that really you? I'm like, yeah, it's me. And that's why it took me 2 days to get back to you, because it's really me texting you back. But perspective, the quickest and easiest way to shift your perspective is with gratitude. It is alchemy. It turns what you don't have into what you do have, and what you can't do into what you can do. And look, 3 months ago, I'm still like, there's supposedly no cure. How much time do I have?
You're still good.
Oh, good. Just keep me.
Like 25 minutes.
Oh, good. Okay. Because I want to save time. I want to talk to y'all. I want time for Q&A. 3 months ago, I went to Costa Rica because I'm still searching for a treatment for this complex regional pain syndrome. And everybody's like, I cannot believe you're going to a foreign country to get treatment. And I'm like, when you're in pain, you're like willing to try stuff. So I go to Costa Rica and try a stem cell that went terribly wrong. And I wake up out of anesthesia and I'm in so much pain, I can't walk. So they, load me up, take me back to the airport. And I guess I must have looked so bad that the lady behind the counter was like, stay there, I'm going to get you a wheelchair. And I didn't argue with her. I was like, thank you. So I get in the wheelchair, they're pushing me in the airport, and I just start crying. I mean, I'm having a pity party. I'm like, this sucks. I'm supposed to be on Ed Milet's podcast next week, and I can't even walk. I wanted to be able to walk into his studio, and now I'm in a wheelchair. I was like, everything going through my head. Didn't speak the language. The guy pushing me, we didn't speak the same language, but we somehow understood each other. And I stopped and I thought, you know what, how can I shift my perspective on this? I was like, hey, look, I got a guy that's actually pushing me in a wheelchair. I don't speak the same language, but we understand each other. All of a sudden, I've got help. He's helping me. All of a sudden, those tears of sadness turned to tears of gratitude. And I was able to that quickly shift my perspective. I'm telling you, anytime you're feeling down or sad or anxious, think about what you're grateful for. And I really encourage you, even if you find someone here tonight, I have a group of ladies, we call ourselves the God Squad, and we have a gratitude practice. And we use an app. I'm not affiliated with this app at all, but it's called My Spiritual Toolkit. And there's a thing where you can go click up, you can go click on one thing, write 10 things you're grateful for, and you can share it with your friends. That keeps you accountable. Y'all, we need accountability. You know, whether we're working out, whether you're doing a gratitude practice, whether you're doing huge business goals, we need accountability. We need someone to go, hey, I got you. I got you. Hey, did you do what you said you're going to do? But really, just practicing that gratitude really shifts your perspective. The next part of PACER is acceptance. We talked all about acceptance. And it seems maybe contradictory to like accept something that you don't want to accept. But in fact, when you let go of the things that you really can't control, it gives you the power to think about all the things that you can control, and you can move in the right direction. And when you're in acceptance, you meet the right community like we have here, and the connection that we have here. And I think that connection and community is probably the most powerful part of PACER. Because look, I'm a coach and I have a coach. I'm a mentor and I have somebody that I mentor. I'm in a mastermind and I have a mastermind. I'm a sponsor and I have a sponsor that I check in with. Don't do it alone. That's what got me into trouble. I started to isolate. You don't have to do it alone. If you can hear one thing tonight, this was hard for me, ask for help, lean in. I'm not saying it's easy. Look, I still felt like, oh gosh, I can't believe I cried to Karen. That brought us closer. That vulnerability can actually be a superpower, and it can break the wall down and bring you closer. I feel like that's what it did, Courtney, with you and I. We started talking, and I started kind of crying with her. But I automatically felt closer because she told me a health challenge she was going through. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can so relate to that. So community is powerful. E is for endurance. That's where your passion and your perseverance comes into play. That's where you ask why, because it activates your heart. It activates your purpose. When I'm feeling like, oh my goodness, I've got so much on my plate. Well, first of all, I'm the one that put it on my plate. You know, when you're like, oh, life is lifey. I got so much on my plate. Well, remember, you're the one that put it on there. You know, endurance is where you think of your why. Because a lot of times, I'm human. I'll go, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? I'm like, no, why? And it energizes me. And remember why you started. And also, y'all, start where you are and use what you have and do what you can. You know, do what you can. And then the last part of PACER is R, and I was just going to call this the PACE method. But I learned over and over again that it have to add R, it's PACER, because rest in recovery is so important. I had a hard time with that. Growing up as a dancer, if you rested, your understudy's going to take the gig. As an athlete, if you rested, then you're a quitter. So those are the things I told myself. And I wouldn't rest, and I would go and go and go until I would hit a wall and crash. And 1 year, no joke, I was in the ER 6 times for an infection. And then finally, the doctor goes, you can't be coming in here anymore. Like, what are you doing? You would think I would have learned with a kidney stone that got infected and I went septic. No, still pushing it. So now I have learned to rest. Okay, man, I've been talking a long time. I want to just end with one thing. I want you to remember that resilience is not reactive. Resilience is a choice, and we got to work on our resilience before we need it. Resilience is your ability to move forward with courage. And so I want you to all think of, let's move forward with courage. with true connected grit. And I want you to know that change is possible and hope is available, and the choice is yours. So thank you for letting me share with y'all. Thank you. Do we have